Change does not begin in comfort, it begins in rupture. And most people spend their lives trying to improve while keeping everything the same, holding on to habits, identities, beliefs, and routines that feel safe but quietly suffocate their growth. And they wonder why nothing moves, why nothing transforms, why their life remains locked in the same cycle. Because true change demands a breaking point, a moment where the old structure can no longer support the weight of the person you are becoming, and it cracks, and it collapses. And in that collapse, space is created for something new, something stronger, something more aligned with your potential. People fear breaking because they confuse it with destruction, but breaking is not the end. It is the beginning. It is the moment where illusions shatter and truth becomes visible, where excuses crumble and clarity appears, where comfort dissolves and purpose rises. Without breaking, you remain tethered to the version of yourself that feels familiar but limits your expansion, and growth cannot happen inside a cage that you refuse to open. So you stay, you settle, you survive instead of evolve, and you convince yourself that this is all you can be. But inside you there is a voice that whispers that you were meant for more, and that whisper grows louder every time you feel the pressure of stagnation, every time you sense the gap between who you are and who you could become. And at some point the pressure reaches a threshold and something inside you cracks, and in that crack you glimpse possibility. When you reach that moment, when the internal tension becomes too heavy for the old identity, you realize that breaking is not a weakness but a necessity, because transformation requires dismantling the structures that no longer serve you. Whether they are habits, beliefs, fears, or patterns, these structures feel stable until they are not, until they start to hold you back instead of hold you together, until they begin to restrict your movement instead of support your growth. And the breaking point arrives, not because life is cruel, but because growth demands space. Nothing new can be built on foundations that are already leaking, worn, and misaligned. So the breaking is a signal, a message, a call to release the old and make room for the new. People often try to repair what needs to be replaced. They polish habits that should be discarded. They patch beliefs that should be abandoned. They cling to comfort that has outlived its purpose, and they call it stability. But stability without growth is decay, and decay eventually forces a break that hurts, a break that shakes, a break that feels like losing something. But in truth, it is losing something that has already lost its value. The breaking strips away the noise, strips away the excuses, strips away the illusions, and reveals a cleaner space where change can take root. The breaking is the clearing is the opportunity, and the opportunity is the transformation. Most people run from this moment because it feels uncomfortable, because it feels like uncertainty, because it feels like losing control. But growth never happens in control. It happens in surrender to the process, surrender to discomfort, surrender to the unknown, and surrender to the reality that the person you used to be cannot carry the life you want to live. So at some point the ego resists, the habits resist, the comfort resists, but the pressure keeps building and the breaking becomes unavoidable. It becomes a turning point, a fork in the road, a moment where you either step into growth or retreat into familiarity. Retreating feels safe, but it leads to stagnation, while stepping forward feels risky, but it leads to expansion. And the irony is that the breaking feels painful because it pulls you away from what you know. Not because you are losing something valuable, but because you are leaving something outdated, something limiting, something that no longer fits the version of yourself you are becoming. The breaking is the signal that growth is ready to happen. The breaking is the doorway through which you walk into a new phase of life, a new mindset, a new level of maturity, a new level of awareness, and a new level of possibility. Without breaking, there is no clearing. Without clearing, there is no building. Without building, there is no transformation. When the breaking happens, it forces you to confront truths you avoided, truths you buried under comfort, truths you masked with routine, truths you softened with distractions. And suddenly they stand in front of you with clarity, and you cannot ignore them anymore, and you cannot pretend they do not exist, and you cannot hide behind habits that weaken you. And in that moment, you become aware that the breaking is actually a gift, a moment of awakening, a moment where your eyes open to the patterns that held you back, to the fears that controlled you, to the excuses that limited you, and to the beliefs that kept you small. This awareness is the beginning of liberation, because once you see the chains, you can remove them. Once you identify the barriers, you can dismantle them. Once you admit the truth, you can rewrite it. The breaking prepares you for reinvention. The breaking prepares you for recalibration. The breaking prepares you for a stronger version of yourself. And although it feels chaotic, it is actually ordered, because it follows the natural rhythm of growth. The same rhythm seen in nature, where storms break the old branches so new ones can grow, where fire clears the land so new life can rise, where pressure transforms coal into diamonds. The breaking is not destruction, it is transformation in action. When you embrace the breaking rather than resist it, you step into a deeper level of self-awareness. You stop fighting the process and start understanding it. You stop resisting discomfort and start using it. You stop fearing uncertainty and start navigating it. And this shift in perspective changes everything. Because now you are no longer trapped in the cycle of maintaining what no longer serves you. You are now aligned with the flow of growth. You allow the breaking to happen. You allow the clearing to take place. You allow the transformation to unfold. And in doing so, you become resilient. You become adaptable. You become stronger. You become someone who does not crumble under pressure but evolves through it. The breaking does not define you. It refines you. It reveals layers you did not know you had. It strengthens parts of you that were dormant. And it prepares you for opportunities that were previously out of reach. And when the breaking ends, what remains is not emptiness, but a space filled with potential, a space filled with possibility, a space filled with clarity, a space filled with purpose. When the breaking has opened the space, the next stage is rebuilding. And rebuilding requires intention, because the vacuum left behind can either be filled with growth or with the same old patterns trying to return. Many people fail at this stage because they mistake comfort for healing, they mistake familiarity for stability, they mistake the return of old habits for relief. But true change demands that you consciously choose what enters this new space. It demands awareness, discipline, and a willingness to construct a new identity rather than fall back into the old one. The breaking created the opportunity, but the rebuilding gives it direction. Rebuilding means redefining your habits, reshaping your mindset, reevaluating your priorities, and reconstructing your self-image. This process feels slow because it requires patience, and it feels heavy because it demands responsibility. But it is in this stage that your transformation becomes real, because now the person you are becoming begins to take shape through consistent action, through deliberate choices, through intentional behaviors, slowly replacing the pieces that once held you in place. The rebuilding is not dramatic, but steady, not impulsive, but purposeful, and not emotional, but disciplined. It is the quiet work that turns potential into reality. During this process, you begin to understand that transformation is not something you achieve once. It is something you practice every day. Every day presents a choice between returning to the old patterns or nourishing the new ones. The old ways whisper because they are familiar. They offer comfort because they require no effort. They offer certainty because they were part of your past. But the new ways require discipline, alignment, and persistence. The new ways demand that you show up even when you do not feel ready, even when doubt appears, even when uncertainty feels heavy, and even when the results are not immediate. Building something new requires endurance, because the foundation you are laying today might not show results tomorrow, but it will shape your life in the long term. Every consistent action strengthens the new structure. Every intentional habit reinforces it. Every moment of self-control stabilizes it. And every decision made with clarity builds the character that supports your transformation. This is why rebuilding feels both fragile and powerful at the same time. Fragile because it is still forming, powerful because it is aligned with who you want to become. As you rebuild, you begin to see how deeply your environment influences your progress, because transformation is not experienced in isolation. It is influenced by the people you surround yourself with, the conversations you engage in, the energy you entertain, and the spaces you inhabit. When your surroundings echo the old patterns, they slow your growth. When they reflect uncertainty, they weaken your confidence. When they reinforce negativity, they drain your momentum. But when your environment supports growth, it amplifies your effort, it strengthens your clarity, it accelerates your discipline, and it nourishes your self-belief. And so you learn to curate your surroundings with intention. You learn to distance yourself from influences that pull you backward. You learn to connect with influences that elevate you. You learn to create an atmosphere that aligns with your new identity. This intentional environment becomes a catalyst for growth, a force that steadies your progress during moments of uncertainty, and a support system that helps you hold the structure you are building. Because transformation is easier when you are not fighting the entire world while trying to change yourself. Rebuilding also reveals the importance of self-awareness, because when you change, you cannot rely on autopilot. You must observe your thoughts, your reactions, your emotions, your impulses, your habits, and your triggers. The breaking removes the old structures, but the rebuilding requires conscious navigation. You must become a student of yourself, noticing where you still drift toward comfort, where you still cling to the past, where you still hesitate, and where you still resist. These observations are not meant to criticize, but to clarify. They show you exactly where your growth still needs support, and they remind you that transformation is a process rather than an event. Every insight gained helps you refine your direction. Every moment of clarity helps you strengthen your foundation. Every step taken with intention helps you align more closely with your new self. Self-awareness acts as a compass, guiding you through uncertainty, keeping you grounded when doubt appears, and keeping you focused when distractions try to pull you away. Transformation without awareness is blind, but transformation with awareness becomes purposeful. During this stage, discipline becomes your companion, because discipline is the bridge between who you were and who you are becoming. It is the steady force that holds everything together when motivation fades. It is the quiet strength that keeps you moving when uncertainty tries to stop you. It is the calm consistency that reinforces your new identity even when your emotions fluctuate. Discipline is not harsh. It is supportive. It is not restrictive. It is liberating, because it frees you from habits that weakened you and anchors you to habits that strengthen you. Discipline is the scaffolding around your new structure. It holds it in place until it is strong enough to stand on its own. Every disciplined action is a vote for the person you want to become. Every disciplined moment strengthens your resolve. Every disciplined choice reinforces the transformation that began with the breaking. Discipline transforms uncertainty into stability and effort into confidence. It makes the rebuilding steady rather than chaotic, and it turns intention into reality over time. As you continue, you learn that patience is essential, because transformation does not follow a linear timeline. It moves in waves, it moves in cycles, it moves in bursts, and it moves in quiet periods. During these quiet periods, you may doubt your progress, you may question your direction, you may feel as if nothing is happening. But patience reminds you that growth often occurs beneath the surface before it becomes visible. Patience helps you resist the urge to abandon the process when results are slow. Patience helps you remain committed when the path feels uncertain. Patience helps you embrace the journey rather than demand instant transformation, because true change is rooted in consistency rather than speed. You cannot rush the establishment of a new identity. You cannot accelerate the building of new habits beyond what your mind can integrate, and you cannot force maturity without giving it time. Patience is the calm confidence that your effort will compound, even when you cannot see immediate results. Rebuilding also requires self-compassion, because transformation is demanding and the pressure can be heavy. When you try to construct something new, mistakes will happen, missteps will appear, and days will feel unproductive. But self-compassion prevents these moments from derailing your progress. It reminds you that growth is not perfection, it is persistence. Self-compassion allows you to learn rather than punish yourself. It allows you to adjust rather than abandon the process. It allows you to continue rather than collapse under pressure. It creates emotional resilience that strengthens your transformation rather than weakens it. You learn to understand yourself, to comfort yourself, to support yourself, and to encourage yourself. Because transformation is a marathon, not a sprint, and patience combined with self-compassion creates stability during the process. Eventually, the rebuilding reaches a stage where your new habits begin to feel natural, your new mindset begins to feel comfortable, your new identity begins to feel familiar, and your confidence begins to grow. The structure you built slowly strengthens and stabilizes, and the uncertainty that once dominated your thoughts begins to dissolve. You begin to trust yourself again, not because the process became easy, but because you became stronger. You gain momentum, you gain clarity, you gain resilience, and you gain self-belief. These qualities reinforce each other until your transformation becomes not just something you are working on, but something you embody. The new you does not feel forced, it feels aligned, and the energy that once felt heavy now feels light. Because the breaking cleared the path, the rebuilding constructed the foundation, and your persistence completed the evolution. You realize that what once felt like destruction became the doorway to your growth, and what once felt like uncertainty became the foundation of your clarity. The transformation becomes tangible, and the person you are becoming becomes undeniable, and from that space you begin to build anew. When the rebuilding stabilizes and the new structure begins to stand on its own, you start to feel a subtle shift in your perception, a quiet confidence that comes not from perfection, but from persistence. You realize that the transformation you once feared is now the foundation you stand on. The uncertainty that once dominated your thoughts has softened, and the clarity that once felt distant now feels familiar. You begin to trust your process because you have lived it. You have endured the discomfort, you have faced the uncertainty, and you have continued despite the weight. This experience reshapes your understanding of what you are capable of. You see your past self with compassion rather than judgment, because you understand that the breaking was necessary, the clearing was essential, and the rebuilding was purposeful. This realization strengthens your self-belief, because you know that you do not grow in comfort. You grow in moments that challenge you, moments that unsettle you, moments that force you to rise, and moments that demand a deeper version of yourself. And once you have experienced that cycle, you become someone who does not fear disruption, but recognizes it as an invitation to evolve. As the transformation settles into your life, you begin to notice that your reactions change. Your decisions become clearer, your actions become more intentional, and your mindset becomes more resilient. You no longer cling to the old patterns because you have seen where they lead, and you no longer fear the unknown because you have survived it. You start operating from a place of internal stability rather than external validation. And this shift creates a quiet strength that influences every area of your life. You approach challenges with composure rather than anxiety, opportunities with curiosity rather than hesitation, and uncertainty with confidence rather than fear. The breaking taught you truth, the rebuilding taught you discipline, and the stabilization teaches you wisdom. Together, these stages refine your character, deepen your awareness, and elevate your capacity. You become someone who carries calm in pressure and clarity in confusion, someone who remains steady while others waver, someone who moves with purpose while others drift. This strength is not loud or dramatic. It is grounded, it is composed, and it is earned through experience. With this new stability comes a deeper understanding of identity, because your identity is not formed by comfort. It is formed by the challenges you withstand, the discipline you practice, the choices you make, and the growth you pursue. After breaking and rebuilding, you see yourself differently. You see the resilience that once felt hidden, the potential that once felt unreachable, and the inner structure that once felt fragile but now feels solid. You understand that identity is not something you choose once, but something you cultivate every day. Your transformation represents a shift in self-perception as much as a shift in behavior. The person you are today reflects the work you invested, the discomfort you tolerated, and the boundaries you redefined. This identity anchors you, guiding you through complexity, aligning you with purpose, and reminding you that growth is not accidental, but intentional. You no longer define yourself by your past limitations, but by your present choices. And this clarity strengthens your commitment to continue evolving rather than returning to familiarity. As you continue living from this transformed state, you notice that your presence changes, not because you try to impress or perform, but because you carry a deeper self-awareness, a grounded confidence, and a calm certainty. Your energy becomes more focused, your intentions become sharper, and your actions become more deliberate. You move with a sense of direction that feels natural rather than forced. And people begin to notice not the effort, but the consistency, not the struggle, but the stability, not the past, but the progress. This creates opportunities that once seemed inaccessible, because your transformation aligns you with environments, conversations, and paths that resonate with your new identity. The breaking opened the doorway, the rebuilding formed the foundation, and the stabilization allows you to walk forward with clarity. You begin to attract experiences that mirror your internal growth, and you realize that transformation has a magnetic quality. It changes your frequency, your decisions, and your direction. While many remain trapped in cycles shaped by fear or nostalgia, you move freely because you have released what held you back. Eventually, the journey reveals a deeper truth. Breaking is not an event, but a process. Not something you endure once, but something you understand repeatedly. Life will present new moments that challenge your identity, your habits, and your comfort, and your growth depends on your willingness to respond rather than resist. Having experienced transformation, you no longer fear these moments. You approach them with maturity, perspective, and confidence. You know that discomfort is not a threat but a signal, that uncertainty is not a trap but a threshold, and that pressure is not destruction but refinement. This understanding allows you to navigate life with greater ease because you no longer interpret every challenge as a catastrophe. You interpret it as a catalyst. Every obstacle becomes an opportunity for recalibration, every disruption becomes a moment for introspection, and every moment of pressure becomes a chance for strengthening. You have learned to break with intention rather than break with fear. This maturity creates a cycle of continuous evolution, where you remain open, adaptable, and aware, where growth becomes a habit rather than a pursuit, where self-improvement becomes a lifestyle rather than a project, and where transformation becomes a natural rhythm rather than a forced effort. You recognize that your development is ongoing, that your potential expands as you refine yourself, and that your journey is shaped by your choices rather than circumstances. You stop waiting for perfect conditions, you stop waiting for motivation, you stop waiting for certainty, because you understand that progress is built through consistency, clarity, and courage. These qualities remain within you regardless of external conditions. You become someone who creates momentum rather than waits for it, who builds resilience rather than fears uncertainty, and who evolves rather than stagnates. This creates a life anchored in purpose rather than drift. In this final stage, a calm stillness settles over you, not because life has become effortless, but because you have become capable. Not because challenges have disappeared, but because your perception has matured. Not because uncertainty vanished, but because your confidence deepened. You stand rooted in awareness, grounded in discipline, and aligned with purpose. The breaking that once felt frightening now feels like a memory that paved the way for clarity. The rebuilding that once felt demanding now feels like a foundation that supports your strength. And the stabilization that now feels natural is a testament to your persistence. You understand that transformation is not a destination but a continuous refinement, and you embrace it with gratitude rather than resistance. You have seen what lies on the other side of discomfort, and you know that every evolution strengthens you, and so you move forward with a quiet certainty, aware that growth will continue to challenge you, aware that breaking may return in different forms, aware that rebuilding will demand effort, but also aware that you possess the capacity to navigate these cycles with grace, resilience, and intention. You carry the wisdom gained from experience, the confidence born from discipline, and the strength forged by discomfort. This combination shapes a life anchored in purpose rather than fear, aligned with clarity rather than confusion, and driven by intention rather than impulse. You realize that the breaking, the clearing, the rebuilding, and the stabilization were not separate events, but interconnected stages of a single transformation. Together they form the person you have become, a person who understands that to change you must break, but also understands that through breaking comes renewal, clarity, and a stronger version of yourself.